The last time a team has done what Ohio State has done this year was, well, actually it hasn't been done. From losing to Michigan for the third year in a row to having arguably the best roster and staff in the country, it isn't hard to argue that Ohio State has had the best offseason this year, and maybe ever, but that could just be me overreacting. Last video, we went over Michigan's 2023 season. This video, we're going to be taking a look at Ohio State's 2024 offseason. Let me take you back. It's January 8th. The game clock hits 0. Michigan has just won their first national championship in 23 years, something that seemed impossible just a few years ago. Let's be real, Michigan was levels below Ohio State in every level, from recruiting to player development, to their coaching staffs, to the facilities, to their actual play on the field, then boom, national champions. Now how will Ohio State react to Michigan finally having something to be happy about?
It's 10-13. That's about when Michigan was claiming the national championship. Quinshon Judkins commits online.
They would get a commitment from the best running back in the SEC, Quinshon Judkins, first team All-SEC in both 2022 and 2023. Surely it can't get better than this. Well, their whole team is back. Marvin Harrison Jr. left for the draft, Kyle McCord left for Syracuse, but guys like JTT, Emeka Egbuka, and Denzel Burke all came back. They even got their quarterback and transfer Will Howard. It surely can't get better than this.
Breaking news tonight. This is the biggest news every Buckeye fan has been waiting for. Alabama safety Caleb Downs hit the transfer portal 2 days ago, and tonight he committed to the Buckeyes.
Yep, they got the best transfer portal prospect. Many would argue they even got the two best transfers this offseason. I didn't even mention Julian Sain, who committed to Alabama, was on the team for 11 days before transferring to Ohio State. Surely it can't get better than having most of their production back, getting maybe the two best transfers that were available this offseason, and that's not even including Will Howard, and getting Julian Sain, who is a 5-star quarterback, getting ready to enter his freshman year with Alabama. Yep, I ignored the fact that Bill O'Brien was on the Buckeye staff for 19 days. He left for Boston College, and Ohio State took a coach who's arguably better, at least for the Buckeyes. He's got history with Ryan Day, and his offensive style is exactly what Ohio State needs. But Ryan Day deciding to bring on Chip Kelly may have been the best move he's made so far as the head coach at Ohio State. Let me explain. Looking at the winningest Power 5 teams from the years 2020 to 2023, this is where they rank when comparing rushing yards per game to 24/7's team talent composite. The teams that recruit the best will be on the right side of the chart, while teams that gain the most rushing yards per game will be towards the top of the chart. For example, you've got the 3 programs in the country who are consistently at the top of the recruiting rankings in Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama. They're all right around the 170 to 190 rushing yards per game area, which are some good numbers. Some other notable ones are the champs, Michigan, who sit at an average of 188.4 over the last 4 seasons, and the runner-ups, Washington, who sit at an average of 135.3 over the last 4 seasons. Meanwhile, all the way at the bottom is Michigan State, who has been so bad at running the ball that they are better off throwing the ball 50 feet in the air and hope that someone catches it. Now you will notice that none of these teams cracked that 200 rushing yards per game mark. Yes, some of them have been able to average 200 rushing yards per game in a season, but this is taking into account the average of the last 4 seasons. There are only 2 teams that have been able to break that barrier. Those teams are Utah, who averaged 202 rushing yards per game over the last 4 seasons, and Ole Miss, who averaged an astounding 215 rushing yards per game. Ole Miss was better than every other team in college football when it came to run. Wait, I think I'm missing something. There's another team. Oh yeah, UCLA, Chip Kelly's team. Well, old team now. From 2020 to 2023, they averaged 221 rushing yards per game. They beat out all these other Power 5 teams. They were on top of the world when it came to running the ball. Unstoppable. And what was maybe the biggest criticism Ryan Day faced last year? They couldn't run the ball effectively. Why is running the ball so important, especially for Ohio State? I'm about to blow your mind. Going all the way back to 2000, whatever team ran more yards in the game won the game. This is the most important game on Ohio State's schedule. This is what defines legacies. Have you ever heard of John Cooper? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. He was Ohio State's head coach from 1988 to 2000. He had a record of 111, 43, and 4 as the coach for the Buckeyes. He is second in all-time wins for the school behind Woody Hayes, who had 205. You would think that he is one of the greatest Ohio State coaches to ever put on the whistle, right? Nope. His teams went 2-10-1 against Michigan. Because of this, he was fired. The game is the most important game for both teams. I found a stat that almost guarantees a win in the game if you can outdo your opponent in it, and that is rushing yards. Yep, rushing yards. Like I mentioned previously, in the last 22 games between Ohio State and Michigan, the team that had more rushing yards than the other came out on top. I put together another graphic showing you guys that this is the case. As you can see, in the last 3 years, Michigan had 156, 252, and 297 rushing yards compared to Ohio State's 107, 143, and 64, and they won all 3 games. This is the first time Michigan had been able to beat Ohio State since 2011. This is also the first time Michigan had won 3 games in a row since 1995, 96, and 97. Ohio State has been dominant. And I'm not going to say it was 100% because of their ability to outrun Michigan, but it was certainly a key piece to it. The last time the team that had more rushing yards lost a game was all the way back in 2000, where Michigan won the game while only gaining a total of 88 rushing yards, compared to Ohio State's 149. This whole thing is something that is crazy to me. You need to be able to run the ball in the game of football. It's just a fact. But it's even more important when you're wearing the scarlet and gray or maize and blue. Ohio State hasn't been able to hit 150 rushing yards in a game against Michigan since 2019, and that's more than likely a big reason why they haven't won since that 2019 iteration of the game. Yes, putting together a defense that can actually stop the other team is very important, but that's why Ohio State bringing back almost all of their players, specifically on the defensive side, was huge for them. They have all the pieces to beat Michigan this year, but can they actually do it? I'm not saying that this offseason will no doubt give Ohio State their first national championship since 2014, but what I am saying is that Ryan Day and the crew there have been busting their butt to make sure that they have the best chance at doing so. From getting most of their stars back, to landing Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs, and more, to getting exactly what they need in an offensive coordinator with Chip Kelly, they have definitely landed the pieces that they need. Based off the numbers, what they have done, and who they now have, I would say that they are definitely one of my favorites to win it all.